Hello and welcome to the third week of your Healthy Skin Challenge. This is set to be the best week of your life. I'm going to demonstrate how you can go completely makeup free and feel confident without having to cover up any issues like acne scarring, pigmentation, melasma, flushing skin, you name it. I'm going to be helping you achieve the best skin of your life. We're going into the third phase. As part of the Healthy Skin Challenge, we've already covered phase 1 and 2. I posted some previous videos in the last 2 weeks that will explain everything that you need to know regarding the first 2 phases. So if you haven't looked at those, then please scroll back and look into those videos. I will also be looking for any of you out there who are happy to share your results, and also get in touch if you want to give a testimonial, because we always love to hear from people that are already experiencing the benefits of having a healthy skin. If you feel that you have any friends that may be suffering with these issues as well, then do go ahead and tag them in on this post and also share it with your friends. I would greatly appreciate it. So let's move on to some of the theory behind the second phase of skin correction. So I've spoken in the past about how the skin is structured, and you know that it's made up of different types of cells. So there are many different layers of skin cells, and as they migrate up towards the surface of your skin, they actually change. It should take them 28 days to reach the skin surface, where they eventually fall off. And I mean, you're losing about 60,000 skin cells an hour, which sounds like an awful lot, but you don't actually see them. The other thing that I didn't know was that about 90% of your household dust is actually made up of dead skin cells. So it's this natural part of the skin to actually renew and be able to recover from any type of injury. It has an amazing capacity to heal. The difficulty is that we actually interfere with that healing process. And part of it comes down to the factors that are outside of us, like in our environment. So when you expose your skin to UV radiation, that actually starts to break down that mechanism of being able to recover from injury. And we get left with all kinds of issues. I spoke a lot about using moisturizers in phase 2, which was all about conditioning. And I described how moisturizers actually don't give you the long-term benefits of curing your dry skin. And it's another symptom of how you know that your skin is actually not healthy. So when you start to see color changes, like red or browns appearing on the skin surface, it's also a sign that it's been inflamed and damaged by factors like UV radiation. There are other things that damage our skin, the actual oxidation of exposure to pollution. So pollution has a lot of free radical attack. So that's where often if you live in a city, apparently you're 35% more likely to premature age, but none of us are going to be moving out of our environments and relocating to try, to make our appearance look a lot more youthful. So we have to think of strategies that we can use ourselves at home. And I've gone into the use of some of these corrective ingredients already, but I just want to give you a background on why skin correction is such a vital part of the work that we do professionally. Because imagine if someone comes in to see me and they actually have like a problem that they want to get resolved, they want it fixed, they want it out of their life, then the whole idea is that we're able to work together to achieve some really noticeable results. So one of the things that I do as part of my assessment, my consultation with someone, is I'm actually going to do an in-depth skin analysis. And the reason why that's so important is because it's so easy to feel like you have all these different problems in your skin, but you don't actually know until you've done a 7-point skin analysis what type of skin you are. So people will say to me, oh, my skin feels really dehydrated. I definitely have an issue with moisture loss. And when I look at their skin, they've actually got plenty of water in their skin. They may be lacking oil, but you can't tell those things by just staring at someone's face. I know a lot of facialists touch the skin and they might be able to see if there's some textural changes, but in my opinion, the most superior way to get a proper analysis of your skin is actually to use a wood slam. And it starts to open up a whole new world of possibilities when it comes to really realizing the skin that you have that's personal to you. So a wood stamp isn't any fancy piece of equipment. It literally looks just like a normal lamp, except it has a little handheld. I'm going to show it to you actually, just so you know what I'm talking about. So this is my actual wood stamp, and there's a little magnifying glass just here, and then when I shine, I turn it on, it has a blue light, and I can actually start to see some of the layers beneath the surface. I can start to see some of the color changes. I can also see how much sebum is in the skin. All the things that I need to be able to correct in order to make the skin healthier, like all that pigmentation from exposure to sunlight, that's all going to be so much darker underneath the wood stamp. So this gives us an idea of what your baseline is. Like out of 5, how exactly healthy is your skin? And in most cases, people actually, they can feel a little bit more self-conscious and maybe think that their skin is more damaged than it actually is. Everyone, experiences some level of sun damage unless you have been completely closed off from natural sunlight. I know that there are some beautiful English roses out there, but the majority of us have had a lot of sun exposure before the age of 24, and that's when most of the damage occurred. So it takes a while for us to really catch up with the fact that the rot has already set in and we've got unhealthy skin that we can't just fix with using a moisturizer. We need to take a more corrective approach. So when you look at the process of skin correction, it's literally like, I can't do without it. If I didn't have skin correction, I wouldn't be able to help my clients achieve the beautiful fresh face skin that they walk away from after a few weeks of using cosmetics or some of the other active products that we have available. So it's part of the main event for me. But when I did my first 2 videos in phase 1 and phase 2, especially conditioning, I really wanted to emphasize that before you get into skin correction, before you start to run this marathon of stimulating the skin with different active ingredients, you have to have done the groundwork. You have to have actually conditioned your skin first. Otherwise, it's a bit like a couch potato running a marathon. So I know a lot of you might be eager to get on board and to start using really strong, potent, high levels of active ingredients from the very beginning. And I would actually caution you against that, because your receptor sites, so these are the docking sites within your skin, are asleep. They're actually not able to take on board the application and the absorption and assimilation of all of these active ingredients. You have to actually wake the skin up, and that's what happens during the conditioning phase. We'll come in, we'll start using a range of actives, some vitamin A, for example. Maybe we'll start off with a percentage that's around the 2% retinol mark, and then we're going to gradually build up the concentration of that active ingredient, vitamin A, and go from 2, go from up to 4, go on to 8, go on to 12. We've got all different types of derivatives of vitamin A that we use, but we know exactly how to apply them. And this is one of the differences I realize going to see a professional really makes. This is why we're able to guide you and give you the exact skin geek version of how to use your skincare at home and ensure that you get all the wonderful benefits using probably a lot less product than what you thought you originally needed. So there's a lot that goes into skin correction, but just think of it like remodeling your house. You've started to, you've picked out your colors, you want to redecorate your living room. You're not just immediately going to paint the walls. You need to take off the old wallpaper that's on there. You need to sand the walls. You need to fill in all the holes, and you need to smooth it away before you start to put the fresh paint on there. So this is the same thing with the skin. You've got all these old compacted dead cells that are stubborn. They are it's quite a thick layer as well that can be created in someone that has a really mature skin. So if you want to get in and create fresh skin, initially you've got to condition that layer. And over time, what's really interesting is that where in the past you would have had a crusty kind of very thick layer at the very top, and then underneath a weaker layer that's much thinner, which is often it goes right down into your dermis. that will be a lot thinner than the top layer. So that actual dermal layer with all the collagen and elastin in, like the mattress of your skin, is going to be a lot thinner. And then the top layer, which is like, should be renewing itself very quickly every 28 days, but instead it's like every 140 days, that becomes a lot thicker. And what we notice from using a skin correction process is that it actually starts to reverse and even out. It goes back to what it was like when you were a child. And a child's skin renews itself like a brand new born baby, has fresh skin every 5 days. It's absolutely nuts. I think that's why they smell so good. And you can just see the luminous kind of nature of their skin. It's like they literally have come down from the sun. So they've got this beautiful glowing complexion. And part of that is because those cells are coming off every 5 days. The dermis is much thicker as well. It's way more hydrated. Like the structure of every cell is like a perfect brick. And we want to get that back in your skin. So it's quite a bold claim to actually make that you're able to reverse some of the damage that's obviously been created. Even, you know, if it's been 20 or 30 years, there's no age limit on doing skin correction. I think that's why I love it so much, because one of the things that I've really noticed is how much you can how naturally beautiful you can make the skin look, how naturally beautiful you can make someone feel as well when a person maybe has more severe lines and they've lost hope, and they think, oh, you know, I'm just going to go and have a facelift, or I'm going to do maybe some kind of non-surgical procedure, like I'm going to have Botox and fillers, and they start to go into this like artificial appearance, and they kind of lose themselves in taking on board all of these other procedures, frozen forehead, raised eyebrows, you name it. And it's not that I'm against using non-invasive procedures. I just know that if you start with skin and you get your skin right, everything else will fall into place and your overall appearance will be far more natural. So that's just an idea for you, because this is a new concept for me to bring forward. There are obviously a lot of brands that make claims, you know, that tell you that they can improve your pigmentation. They can obviously, you know, make claims on the product that say they are going to help your lines as well. But when it really comes down to it, when you really, really want to change someone's face, you have to get in under the skin in such a level that you're so intimate with it. You're really working with the skin and not against it, which is why I believe you can buy products over the counter, but when it comes to actually getting the right type of product to suit your skin, doing that 7-point skin analysis makes all the difference. Because I've seen people purchase expensive products with active ingredients in them, but not realize actually their skin is a lot oilier, and that oil is just filling up the pore and blocking the penetration and effectiveness of actives that are in their products. It's literally, there's hundreds of millions of pounds worth of product that just sits on people's skin. It doesn't go any further, when we know all the damage is actually deep within. It's not going to shift unless you get in there. So I always say the wood lamp never lies, which is a great kind of way of summarizing that sometimes the feelings you have in your skin aren't actually what's going on. And it is a bit of a like eye-opener for myself as well included. I definitely have not always had what I would call perfect skin. I don't think I can have perfect skin because of my heritage. I am mixed Irish and I also have Middle Eastern blood, so that makes me much more prone to getting issues with pigmentation. And you know, I had an experience, I spoke about it in another Facebook Live, I think it was one of the first Facebook Lives that I did, explaining that I'd gone and decided to do a holiday where I was going to learn how to surf, and I didn't actually come away any better at surfing. I just came back with a big face of pigmentation, and it was really noticeable. It was very much on the surface of my skin immediately. It wasn't like I spent a month living there. I was actually only in the water for a few days. I think my body couldn't take very much after 3 days of solid surfing, but in the water and sort of, you know, exposed to the elements as well, I picked up a lot of sun damage, and it was that stubborn type of pigmentation that just won't go away on its own. It's just always going to reoccur. So I'd had the experience of treating client skin, and I knew that there was something I could do about it. But I obviously like to sometimes do little experiments to see what the possibilities are. And it helped me actually design this protocol that I'm explaining to you with the 28-day Healthy Skin Challenge. So I just want to show you a picture of what my pigmentation looked like. It was, as I said, it was quite a shock to the system, but it is fascinating, I think, to see. So this is me, and if you can see like all the freckles that are there, the other thing that I really was very concerned with was this very dark patch of pigment that was coming up on my cheek area. So I had just up here on both sides like these huge, it was like someone had kissed me with brown lipstick on both of my eyes. So it didn't look too great, and I knew that I needed to step on it and get myself into a regimen that would help improve the colour of my skin. Now, what's really interesting about skin correction is we apply the same ingredients, the same theory to the issue I had with pigmentation to someone that has a problem with acne scarring or with lines. We're all moving in the same direction, which is that we need to start to rebuild, remodel the skin. And the good thing about this process is that it's actually clinically tested. It's not something that you can just make up and then have claims around. You actually really have to provide the evidence to show, after doing this on X number of volunteers. Like, I've done lots of case studies throughout my time, but even reading some of the papers and some of the research that's been done, this is a really interesting area of work because it's done without taking obviously any medication. And anyone that's had an issue with acne, for example, and maybe was on Roaccutane, Accutane, which is a very high dose of vitamin A that you take orally in pill form, they will have gone through a huge host of kind of secondary issues that crop up when you take those medications, and even things like antibiotics as well. It's not healthy for your body. It's not great for your liver, and it's not great in terms of your body's immunity if you're on antibiotics for a long time. So what makes me really excited about skin correction and using active ingredients is that it offers a pathway where even if you've got the worst, like you're like, oh my God, my skin is so far gone, there's nothing that can help me, you can actually bring someone back. You can totally reverse the damage that has occurred because of sun exposure, or because they have an issue with an imbalance in their skin. It might be as a result of even a hormonal balance. You can use things topically on the surface to bring them back. And all this power is harnessed from plants. It's nothing outside of nature. It's nothing that your body actually doesn't recognize in the way that a medication is sort of like it is a foreign substance. So we are super excited, not just me, all the professionals I work with, our clients as well, because it's sort of like, you get all the benefits, but you lower your risks when you take this on board. So that was my starting point with my pigmentation. And the first step with actually correcting the skin is you've got to do what we call stimulate, okay? Because you've got this layer of, junky cells, and you need to get that debris off. You can't stimulate the skin without increasing the rate of renewal. And there's only one ingredient that really hits the spot, and the best one is vitamin A. Now, in a cosmetic product, it's going to be a derivative because you need it to convert in the skin to this chemical messenger called transretinoic acid. So our cosmetic formulations use retinol, retinaldehyde. I don't use retinol esters, which you can find in a lot of cosmeceuticals. I much prefer the strength and the potency, the concentration that you can get with encapsulated retinol, encapsulated retinaldehyde. And there's a whole, list of new innovative vitamin A's that keep coming out. It's such an exciting area of development. So you've got to have that in the basket. Don't leave home without it. And once you get vitamin A in, what it's doing is actually getting in to the DNA, the actual software within the cell, and it's also improving the way the cells that are being birthed subsequently, it's improving how they behave. Now that's really important because your cells are sort of designed to protect you against a host of all kinds of things. And if they are mutated and they're not behaving so well, then they can turn into all kinds of nasties, like skin cancers, for example. The origins of skin cancer are pretty much the same as premature aging in the sun exposure, lack of vitamin D, all these, like, you know, if you're not eating enough essential fatty acids in your diet, you're going to have an issue with your skin cells because they're made of fats as well. So I'm always really keen to point out that this ingredient is really about promoting healthy skin in the long term as well. And there's never a time that you should actually be off it. You don't need to start too young. I mean, I think I actually started way too young because I was using really active ingredients from, I think, around my late teens. I was a little bit naughty. I got stuck in with glycolic, vitamin C pads, you name it. I was experimenting using all my mum's products. So I think it's better if you have a fresh face already to focus more on protection and prevention. But if you do see color changes and you've had your skin analysis done, then it's okay. Get stuck in with your vitamin A and keep it within your regimen on an ongoing basis. You know, if you go into a different type of climate, for example, if you're in sun, if you're, maybe in a more humid environment, then have a break. You know, if you're used to living in a colder climate as well, you can use these types of ingredients even if you live in a hot climate. And you have to remember, a lot of these companies are based in countries like America, Australia, where, you know, they haven't even got an ozone, and they are using them very effectively because the types of issues that are coming up in Australia are those issues like, you know, sun exposure, sun damage, you name it. So they need to have on board effective ingredients. So they are safe to use, but you have to have a strategy around how you apply them and how you actually incorporate them into your overall routine. So vitamin A for me was like exactly what my skin needed, because it was able to increase the cell renewal. Now, when you look at vitamin A, even if sometimes it's in the bottle, it might be yellow in color, the product. You can sometimes find actually that vitamin A oxidizes and it turns a little bit more orange. So it is an ingredient that we know isn't very stable, and it can actually lose its capacity to recover your skin. If it's exposed to light and air, it will degrade the actual formulation. So that was one of the reasons why originally cosmetic versions of vitamin A weren't really considered by the medical consumer community to be any good. So we know, we've got some great encapsulations now and delivery mechanisms, so we can actually penetrate the skin and get these ingredients into the living layer. So when you look at vitamin A, you can see here I am with my vitamin A mask, absorbing, taking on board all the benefits. And this is a peel actually that you can leave on the skin that has a very high concentration of vitamin A. So this is where you get into doing treatments as well that contain vitamin A, and that's the game changer. That's when you're just moving out of sort of, okay, this is going to take me like 9 months to get there, into let's do this in 6 months, or let's do this in a matter of 3 months. So skin peels aren't something that you should shy away from if you have an issue. You should be thinking about not chemical ones like exfoliating peels, but more skin corrective, what we call metabolic peels. So it's a bit more of a sophisticated type of treatment because it is enhanced to actually improve how your skin behaves, the structure of your skin, not just exfoliate it. So vitamin A can be used in lots of different percentages. I personally like to start with at least a 2% vitamin A product, and then I will, as I go on, until I get to a point where I'm happy with my skin, I will continue to increase the percentages. So I'll go more into the actual application and product in the second video. But in this video, I just want to give you some of the basic theory. So remember, vitamin A is really about regulation. And what's really smart about it is that even though my primary problem was pigmentation, it is on a continual basis making the structure of my skin healthier So I don't have issues with dryness. I can wash my face and not feel tight. My skin is also, once that barrier is put back in place, which is the best thing about vitamin A, it literally seals everything in. It will improve the way that my skin is able to protect itself against UV radiation. So the same amount of UV where it would have previously really penetrated my skin and burnt me, now I can actually be in sun and not suffer the consequences of that sun exposure, because your skin is designed to be a very effective shield against UV radiation. You just need to watch out for what you are genetically designed for. Like if you're an Irish skin, don't be going out lying and frying, because you are going to freckle and you're going to pay the price. Whereas if you're darker and you're someone who has like a black skin, would have a natural SPF of 13, you can get a little bit more sunlight. I would actually encourage everyone to get more sunlight, because we're all vitamin D deficient, unfortunately. But you need to tailor your actual exposure to what your genetics have designed you to be. So I'll go into that in another post. I think I actually already spoke about it, about using SPF last week in video 2. But I'll continue to give you a little bit more insight into what happened in my experience when I was being treated for pigmentation. So as I said, I was at this point in my journey where I was continuing to use my vitamin A. And one of the things that you notice when you have pigment issues is that no matter what happens, even if you're scrubbing or exfoliating, that pigment gets worse. It doesn't actually get better. Or it might be that you do a chemical peel, or you use maybe glycolic or some kind of exfoliant, and it improves for a short time, and then you get a little bit of sun exposure, and it comes back with a vengeance. So that's the real frustrating part of actually treating pigmentation. If you have another issue like acne scarred skin and it's red, then again, vitamin A is really going to help you, because you're going to be able to heal those scars by shrinking the pores. It also regulates oil, which is fantastic for acne skins. It's the main reason why these drugs like Retin-A, Roaccutane, all have very high strength amounts of vitamin A. It's part of the reason why they're used. Originally, it was found to shrink the sebaceous activity, the oil production. So this is an all-rounder, but one of the things that you have to keep with is consistency of application. And where often people struggle, even with like a very low percentage, is that their skin becomes very red and dry during this correction phase, and they get the impression, because it looks worse as well, that they're actually allergic to vitamin A or whatever product they're using, whatever derivative. Now the truth is that you can't actually be allergic. It's just that you've overused it, you've overstimulated your skin. You just use way more than what you're meant to use. We're very fortunate in that our vitamin A's don't have this tricky phase where you initially start using them and you get overstimulated, red and dry. That was like what happened with vitamin A products 10 years ago, 15. Yeah, I think when we first started with cosmetics, definitely was an issue. But today, the encapsulation and the techniques that we have for introducing vitamin A means you can get all the benefits without getting reactions. And that goes for people that are using even high street products that are meant to be weaker. The number of times someone's told me, I'm using vitamin A, my skin doesn't like it, I've become really red and dry, I think that I'm actually allergic to it. That's not the case at all. So really get in touch if you're confused by your vitamin A product, how to use it, because there are solutions there. It's just a matter of having the expertise to know how to apply them. So don't get mixed up with your vitamin A, stick with it. So I was in my phase of treatment, and pretty much quickly, I mean, this is me now, 2015, and already, this is without any blue light. Already you can see that dirty patch of brown has started to evaporate. So here it was, my dirty patch of brown. This was my picture. So this is the one I'm referring to. So that was me without actually the UV light on. So here I am again, no UV light on. So that's my normal skin. And it doesn't actually look that severe. It doesn't look that brown when you look at a picture of me, I mean, I'm a bit flushed. Now, when you start to look at what my skin looks like after treatment, you can immediately see this is looking much better. And this was actually 2016. So I started my treatment in 2015. This is me 2016, this is 2 years ago. And already that visible patch of brown is gone. Now, when I look under the woods lamp, I can actually show you a comparison as well. And hopefully this will come up as in the video. I'll post this picture, so if anyone's interested, they can have a look. But when you start to look at the comparison, you can actually see that the brown patch has improved considerably. Pigmentation overall is much better. And according to this, it's like I got a score. This was one of those things where you can do the results and you can see how much better it was. I was actually down, I'd say by at least, like I've got quite a freckled skin as well underneath. I was down by at least a quarter. So 25% improvement in pigmentation, especially within that one area, is amazing. And on the skin surface, where you could see my before and my after. So this is my before, this is my after. Quality of skin is just so much better. So I'm really curious to go back. I mean, I have taken subsequent pictures and I'm going to be updating you with my progress report, because it's always nice to use myself as an example of someone who's been, you know, quite fortunate and able to get healthier skin by using these products. But today I've highlighted for you the key ingredient that needs to be involved in skin correction, called vitamin A. So I know everyone's going to be like, vitamin A. And I'm going to give you a few more. I'm just going to whiz them off so that you have an understanding of the combination, the cocktail of what goes into making the perfect skin regimen for you to get healthier skin. So vitamin A is off the list. Now we also talk about these AHAs. That means alpha hydroxy acids. And there are there's a huge number of different versions, and you can access them from lots of different plants. So we use L-lactic, L-tartaric, L-manic, L-mandelic. They're all purified versions. And these cocktail of acids work hand in hand with vitamin A. So you use vitamin A, you start to get the skin engine going, and then the AHAs sweep the floor. So where people struggle seeing results, and it's like 28 months before anything visible happens, they aren't using the right combination of vitamin A and AHAs. So it's a little bit of a secret. I don't know why it's a secret. It shouldn't be a secret. But don't use vitamin A without using an AHA of some sort. Even if it's in your cleanser, even if you've just got a little bit of lactic acid in your cleanser, then go ahead and use that vitamin A in combination. You might use your cleanser as a mask, like the way we do with our Purity Clean, but you got to get it in there. Otherwise, what happens is vitamin A gets stored in the skin, and then it sits there until you get injured. So that little kind of micro stimulation of the cells on the surface actually signal that that vitamin A needs to be digested and converted and used into something. So that's just the most important part of what I'm going to say today. And then anything to do with pigmentation needs ingredients that are known as tyrosinase inhibitors. There's an enzyme in your skin that converts to pigment. It's nothing like mega new, but people out there that have issues with pigmentation don't realize that you can't just scrub it away. You need to actually manage the production. So we use a whole range of actives. We have even things like vitamin C are really brightening. You can also use berberry, which is a plant. I actually saw like the berberry plant for the first time in the summer, and it's a real hardy little plant because it's out there in the environment. And this is where I love plants, because they're so exposed to everything that we get exposed to, but like on such a more extreme level. They have to create all these properties, all these vitamins, antioxidants, in order to stop them from being like eroded, and they're able to protect themselves. So like, you know, anything that you grow outdoors in harsh climates is actually going to make a really good medicine and a really good skincare ingredient as well. So we use berberine. There are other versions of tyrosinase inhibitors that I find ineffective. Kojic acid stops working after 2 weeks, so I don't use it. Now that's, you know, fortunate for us because we have formulations that are free from kojic acid. It's not a baddie. It's not that I would be like, oh, you know, you should never touch it. It's just don't go buy it and then have the expectation that it's going to long term help your skin. And I think there's a real thing with people that have issues like melasma, using these brightening ingredients on a long-term basis. You should be super careful because the sun, it has obviously quite a, you know, damaging effect on your skin, and your pigment is your own natural anti-aging ingredient. So you really need to be able to protect yourself from sun exposure. And if you're always like pushing that pigment down and nearly bleaching your skin with things like hydroquinone, which honest to God, get rid of it, don't use it in your skincare because it's toxic to your cells, then you are going to get rebound issues. So it's always about little, often, combine it with vitamin A, and then unless you're sort of a person that does have melasma and you have this issue, it's going to take a while, but eventually you sort of want to be off these brighteners. You don't want to be using them forever and ever and ever, ongoing. You want to allow the vitamin A, the antioxidants, and some of the protective elements of your regimen to actually control how much pigment is being used in your skin. So I am a advocate of balance, obviously. So we have our vitamins, and there are peptides that you can use, which are also corrective and even control things like pigment far better for the skin longer term. And these ingredients will also help to stimulate other things within the skin, like collagen and elastin, vitamin A, and amino acids. Like some of these growth factors are clinically proven to actually interact with your fibroblasts, and they're going to get in there and actually stimulate collagen after the age of 30, which is phenomenal. So we can see a difference. If we do a cross-section of skin, we can measure the density of your collagen and actually demonstrate, not just in pictures, we can demonstrate that it's improved in thickness. So that is a massive win. And one of the things around using these products around the eyes is that even with sensitized or thinner skin, you can go right up to the eye bone. Just tap anything you have and it will lift. I've heard this from so many experts, and I know I'm not the only one to say it, with people that have dark circles and if they're Asian skin as well, such a benefit because you just use your vitamin A all over your face, and then you just take that little bit of residue and you tap it in and around the eye bone. So we're all about tap, tap, tap. And then I also do this area because I'm like, I don't want to have a lined mouth when I'm much older. So you can get away with so much just from knowing how to use your products correctly. So yeah, you've got pretty much all your A's there. And these are the categories of active ingredients that we use to correct your skin. And that is, for me, the best thing about the work that I do. So the next step for you is to obviously have a look out for some of the recommendations that I'm going to be making in the second video. Please leave a comment and like and share this video if you found anything interesting in it that you want to share with your friends. And I will be continuing this series within your 28-day program. Really looking forward to guiding you further. Enjoy your beautiful, healthy week ahead.